In the last two exercises, you added Spark text controls to the Employee Portal application. In this video, I will show you how to enhance the application further by first using Design Mode to define some global application styles. Then you will learn how to define CSS styles for the Flex Framework components and for your own custom components. Let me take a moment to remind you that while MX components have many built-in styles, Spark components have fewer of them. As you learn throughout this series, the Spark components have some basic styling abilities, but if you are going to change the component display more drastically, you would actually implement a skin for the component. You will learn how to do that in the next few videos. This means that for Spark, CSS is largely used for three main purposes: to define some overall properties for an application, to wire up skins to components, and to apply advanced CSS selectors. You will learn how to perform these three tasks with CSS in this last day of training. This image shows the enhancements that I will make to the application. I will use the Appearance view in Design Mode to make a global change to all the text controls. Then I will style the Flex Frameworks panel and button controls. Lastly, you will learn how to create a selector to target the styles in the Monthly Events custom component. This is the starter version for my application for this video. You can see that the application appears with white panel container backgrounds and uses an Arial font throughout the application. The Monthly Events panel actually has a white background too, but the yellow color is being drawn by the text control. I will update all the panels to have gray backgrounds and use Verdana for the font. In Flash Builder, note that there is only one file in the default package for this project, the Starter MXML application file. I'm switching to Design Mode. To the right of the Properties view, you can see the Appearance view. From here, I can change the global application font from Arial to Verdana and the font size to 10. When I use the Appearance view, Flash Builder automatically creates a CSS file for me in the default package for the project. The Flex application points to that CSS file using this style tag that was inserted into the main application file. I'm going to move that style tag right here to follow my coding convention. I'm double-clicking on the CSS file to open it. In Flex 4, each CSS file defines namespaces for the Spark and MX libraries at the top of the file. You can also see the global selector that defines the settings that you selected in the Appearance tab. The global selector sets styles that will apply to the entire application. I'm saving the files and running the application. You can see that the Verdana font at a size of 10 appears smaller than Arial. You can apply styles to all instances of a Flex component in your application by using the Flex component as selectors in CSS. You use the familiar component name, for instance in this case button, and prefix it with the appropriate namespace. Between the two values, place a pipe character. The rest of the CSS syntax is the same. You define the styles and their values between the curly braces for the selector. Below the global selector, I have referenced the panel container in the Spark namespace and set its background color to a light gray. When I run the application, you can see that the first two panel containers have a gray background, but the third has a yellow background with blue text. These properties are actually being set by the text area control in this custom component. Back in Flash Builder, I'm opening this custom component and removing the content background color from the text area control. I'm also removing the blue color for the text. I'm adding a content background alpha property set to 0, which will make this text area transparent. When I save the file and run the application, all three panel containers now appear with the gray background colors. Flex also supports the creation of multiple selectors with the same name and different styles. In this example, you can see that the button control in the Spark namespace is being defined 3 times. The first 2 instances have different defined styles, but the last instance is defining the same style, color, as the first. If styles in more than one selector overlap, then the last one is applied. Otherwise, all are applied. Within the CSS file below the panel container selector, I'm creating a Spark button selector. I'm setting the color property to blue, pound 0074AA. When I save the file and run the application, you can see all the text values in all of the button controls are blue. I'm creating a second Spark selector for the button control with a font family property set to Arial. I'm creating a third selector and changing the color value to black. Let's see whether the black color or the blue color is applied. When I save the file and run the application, you can see that all the button control labels in the panel containers are Arial and black. The last color property defined is used. Just as in your Flex application, you can create custom namespaces in your CSS files. You create a custom namespace using the @namespace directive. Then you use the arbitrary namespace alias, which is CX here, and the package it applies to within double quotes. You follow that statement with a semicolon. You apply the custom component selector by referencing the namespace and custom component name with a pipe character in between. All of the properties that you define between the curly braces are applied to the custom component instance. In the CSS file below the Spark and MX namespaces, I am using the @namespace syntax to create the namespace CX that references the custom components in the components folder. At the end of the file, I'm using the CX namespace to reference the monthly events custom component to set its color property to blue. When I save the file and run the application, you can see that the component's content is blue. I'm returning to the CSS file to highlight the custom component selector and comment it out using the Control-Shift-C command or the Command-Shift-C command on the Mac. When I save the file and run the application, all text values are again black. For your next step, work through the exercise titled Defining Selector Styles.